Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Thursday, July the 16th. We do have a couple red folder news events. We have some earnings coming up as well. Yesterday, we had core PPI. We ended up rejecting off the top of the range here on the Q. SPY was unable to break above the top of the range here as well. So as you can see, the SPY and Qs still technically inside of the range that we talked about this week. That's kind of been the theme, just inside the consolidation, inside the range on the higher time frame. So on the lower time frame, there's been a lot more mean reversions and reversals, of course. We'll head on to the economic calendar and some charts here in a second. Before we do that, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Good morning, Kelvin, Z Norris. Good morning, Maria, J10, Cody, Robert, Lamit, Robert, Deuce, Beeson. What's up, everyone? Maria, Sinna, Guy. What's up, Ron, Julius, Deuce. What's up, Andrea? What's up, Juan, Doug, Gracie, Rocket. Shorts are long this morning. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Overall market there's been a lot more mean reversions, as you can see. If you kind of just zoom out here on the Qs, the range is still in fact. So yesterday we gravitated towards the top of the range, but just another rejection here off that 725. And now you can see we're gravitating down in towards the bottom of the range here on the Qs. Don't forget, if it's hard, go easy. If the market is easy, go hard. Of course, that's a great quote. All right, with that being said, let's pull up the economic calendar here and we will get started. Let me do this very quickly. Okay, so yeah, coming into market open, at least for today, we do have some orange folder news, core retail sales. That's going to be at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to the other things that we have here as well is retail sales month over month, along with the unemployment claims. So that's going to all be at 8:30, and then of course President Trump is speaking later tonight. That is going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then for tomorrow, we do have consumer sentiment, which is going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, as you can see, a couple names or a couple things to keep an eye out for: unemployment, along with the core retail sales. We do have a couple earnings to keep an eye out for here as well. So, yesterday we had a couple names like ASML. We do have some names in the pre-market that we'll take a look at here. UNH along with TSM. That's fairly important. We'll take a look at this. And then, of course, we do have Netflix in the after hours here. So with that being said, that's kind of about it for at least the earnings season, at least for this week so far. To kick it off, we do have a bunch of other earnings coming up as well next week. So we'll talk about that a little bit more on the weekend. But at least for today, we'll take a look at TSM and we'll take a look at Netflix here. All right, with that being said, let's pull up the charts. We'll head on to some of the major indices here, and then we'll make our way down into, of course, the tech names. With that being said, if you guys do have any charts or any tickers, you guys can drop them in the chat now. We should have a decent amount of time today. We don't have to worry about PPI or CPI. We do have some orange folder news events that I'm not expecting to have as much of an impact on the market as, of course, CPI or PPI. So we'll have a decent amount of time to go over some names today. So if you guys do have those, you guys can drop them in the chat. If you guys enjoy this, appreciate it if you guys drop a like and sub. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. Alrighty, so let's first take a look at the QQQ. This one is ranging on the higher time frames. I just briefly talked about this, but the levels that I have marked out is our 725 along with our 705 towards the downside. This week so far, we ended up gapping lower, pushing back up in towards basically that previous close that we gapped down on the weekend. And then we ended up rejecting here off that 725 yesterday. Sellers stepped in primarily on the Qs, and we ended up pushing towards the downside. For the SPY chart, the SPY is actually up 0.4%, but you can see the Qs is down 0.27, and then SMH is down 1.5%. So a lot of the names especially the high beta names, semis, we have some of the memory names are definitely lagging behind the overall markets here now. As for the key levels that we have marked out today, the main levels that we want to focus on, as I mentioned, is our 725 along with our 705. The rest of these levels are levels that are intraday that are still important, but of course not as significant as the 725 and 704. If we want to see some upside, now it's just going to be a bounce play. Right now we're coming back down towards the low of the range, so we can see an intraday potential push towards the downside. But I would like to see buyers right step in once again off that 705 for a reversal back towards the upside. At least for today, the key levels that we're going to have marked out here is our 705, as I mentioned. Other levels that we can have marked out is our 710, which happens to be our previous day lows. So if you want to see potential bounce, right, off our previous day lows coming to market open, or if price drops right off the bat, we can be looking for the base off our 706 for a pushback towards the upside here as well. Potential shorting opportunities in play underneath our previous day lows. We can see room down in towards that 705. So this is definitely in play today underneath our previous day lows. Underneath our Monday's lows right off the bat, we can see a potential drop down in towards that 706. If we look at the QQQ, let's zoom out on this one on the higher time frames. You can see the Qs, or the NQ in this case, is really having a solid reaction right off that 30,000 we talked about. So this is the area that we dropped from on the weekend, and you can see price ended up gravitating back up in towards this level yesterday. Another rejection, and it pushed right back towards the downside. So rejection off this 30,000. You can see another rejection here, another rejection, and now we're at the bottom of the range, which happens to be our 29,200. So now what I'd like to see is if any buyers can step in off this area for just kind of this reversal trade back towards the upside on the NQ. If you go back onto lower time frames, the key levels that we have marked out is really just going to be our previous day lows along with our 29,200 potential bounce play off this level coming to market open for a main reversion back towards the upside. If we're taking a look at the SPY here now as well, the SPY is unable to break above this 755 here on the higher time frames. So for the SPY, let's actually just put back on the drawing. So the key levels that we have marked out, we have our 752. This is our key area, and then we also had this area marked out, which is our last week's highs, 755. This is the area that we rejected from, or sorry, we ended up breaking out on Friday. Monday opened up underneath this level, and you can see yesterday that was a key technical level that we're keeping an eye out for. So another rejection here on the SPY, kind of right off the 755. Some sellers stepped in the pre-market. Once again, another rejection, and now we're back down in towards this 752. So on the lower time frames, coming into market open here, key levels that we have marked out, previous day high 755, rejections off this level. And then we also have our 752, which is a higher time frame key level here as well. The 754 level was used yesterday, kind of right off the bat. That was our previous day high. So nice bounce off our previous day highs, push back up. But then you can see we're kind of just consolidating around that previous day highs level, 754. In this case for today, the main level that we're going to have marked out is going to be that 755 along with that 751. Upside now, I'm only really interested above our 755. That's going to be key on the higher time frame. Since we rejected from here multiple times, we needed above our 755 for continuation. We could see a potential kind of bounce play, but this would just more so be inside the range. You can see we already had multiple touches and reactions around this area, so we can bounce once again. But the best case scenario is going to be longs above this 755 here on the higher time frames for the SPY chart. If we actually do get underneath our 752, we can be looking for a potential short opportunity underneath our 752 if the markets do want to stay heavy, to target that previous day lows and to target that 750 here on the higher time frame. So keep an eye out on the SPY underneath the 752. This is a key flip level that we have for a push down in towards that 750. If of course the markets do want to break outside this range, and specifically the Qs wants to break underneath that previous day lows here as well. For taking a look at the ES, this one is a little bit cleaner. Key levels that we have marked out 7580 along with our 7480. Other key levels that we have marked out here as well is our 7620. You can see touch here, and another touch, another rejection off this level. We were unable to break above this. If we broke above it, really the next level would have been that all-time highs, but currently we are having a little bit of a tough time off this area, and now we're pushing back towards the downside. You can see we're still building up higher lows on the hourly time frame, but we're not having that continuation that we want above our 7620. So as I mentioned, if we want to see longs, we need to see it build higher lows above our 7620. That would be the best case scenario for longs, above that previous day highs. If we now break back underneath, we can see a potential flip. We'd break structure here on the hourly time frame. We very much well could see a trade all the way back down in towards that 75.40. So keep that in mind for the ES along with the SPY coming to market open. As for the SMH is of course the semiconductor ETF. This one is unable to break above that 620. This is the key levels that we talked about. We're kind of just ranging from the 620. The bottom of the range is at 570. A nice trade up in towards that 620, but ultimately sellers stepped in right off this level, and now we're pushing price all the way back towards the downside. So for the SMH, this one is now coming back down in towards the bottom of the range, which is that 7570. You can definitely see the semis are a little bit weaker. They're still holding up here on the daily chart, and we could still very much well build this double bottom here on the daily time frame, but semis as of recent have been a lot weaker. If I was to pull up the EMAs to give us a good reference point here as well, we're underneath the EMAs, close underneath, and now you can see we're kind of been holding underneath this 9 and 21 as of recent. So that's why we're showing a little bit weaker price action on the semis. This is the line in the sand. If we flip underneath 580, we could see definitely a bigger pullback here on the semiconductors. If we hold that 580, of course, we can see that pushback. That pushback up in towards 600 and above. Okay, that's it for the semis and a lot of the other major indices here as well. We'll head on to some tech names in a second. We'll go into the IWM very briefly, and then we'll head on to some tech names. So if you guys do have any charts or any tickers, you guys can now drop them in the chat below. If you guys are enjoying this so far, appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below as well. So as for the IWM, this one has been ranging in between our key technical levels. 292 is the bottom of the range. Buyers are stepping in. What we would like to see, as I mentioned, is the breakback above this 298. Touch here, another touch yesterday. If you do want to see any sort of upside, needed to see it back above this 298 for this continuation towards the upside. A potential pop and fade. You can see it push right back down in towards that 292. All right, let's head on to some tech names here. We'll start off on Tesla, and then we'll make our way down. I'm going to grab some water here as well. So as I mentioned, if you guys do have any charts or any tickers now, you guys can drop them in the chat. Okay, so let's first take a look at Tesla here. If we're on the hourly time frame, so far structure is still intact for a potential move towards the downside. Hourly time frame building up these lower highs. We are coming down into a key level support here, which is that 388. But we've had multiple touches here, and we're showing a little bit weaker price action. Tesla for today, keep an eye out for a potential break underneath this previous day lows. And this 388 here on the higher time frame. So keep an eye out on this key level support, touch here, break underneath, potential retest for a continuation towards the downside. All right, so we'll keep an eye out on Tesla. underneath our previous day lows for continuation towards the downside. If you want to see any sort of potential bounce play, we already bounced here multiple times. You can see a couple times we had some nice buyers stepping off this 390. We could see a potential undercut reclaim setup back towards the highs. That is very much well in play here on Tesla. So I do expect it to head lower. We'll see if we end up having that reclaim. We can look to trade this back towards the upside, or as I mentioned, if it wants to stay heavy, if it breaks underneath, then we could be looking for the retest back towards the lows. So we'll keep an eye out on Tesla coming to market open. AMD, this one is failing to break above that 560 that we talked about. Basically another rejection right off that key technical area yesterday. And now we are back at the bottom of the range. So for AMD, the key levels that we have marked out is our 560. You can see touch here, another touch, and then of course yesterday, or sorry, on Tuesday, tried breaking above rejection. Yesterday came up once again, rejected off this 560. You can see pretty big sell-off right back into the bottom of the range, which happens to be our 500 key psychological level. So for AMD, came all the way back down in towards that 508 on the higher time frames. At least for today, key levels that we're going to have marked out is simply just going to be that previous day lows. If we get underneath our previous day lows, hold, then we could see continuation down in towards 500. If we come back down, buyers step in, reclaim back above, then we can be looking for this flip back up in towards our previous day close here on AMD. So if it moves lower, which it's going to move lower first, we'll see if we can reclaim for a push back towards the upside, or if it stays heavy, then we can look for this short back down and towards 500. Let's take a look at Nvidia here. This is a name that's still relatively holding up compared to the overall markets. You can see higher lows are being built here on the charts. As you can see, higher lows on the hourly time frame. And then yesterday, of course, once we end up having that nice push on Tuesday, yesterday we actually ended up just rejecting off of our 210 along with our previous day highs here. So yesterday we end up having that push up right off the bat. Upper wick here, rejected off that previous day highs, pushed towards the downside, came all the way back up. At the end of day, pretty strong close, only to now fade back towards the downside. So for Nvidia today, what we're going to have marked out is that previous day highs. We can just kind of mark out this general area. Nvidia, best case scenario for longs above our 210 or above that previous day highs. That would be the best case scenario for longs. So keep an eye out on that. I'm not interested in really shorting Nvidia. Right now, we're kind of opening up in between its previous day's range, previous day high, previous day low. I'd be a little bit more cautious if we're kind of right in between the middle of the range here on this one. As for Apple, this is the one that we kind of took a look at yesterday. One of the main trades towards the upside. We talked about the flip back above that previous all-time highs level. Nice continuation towards the upside. If you zoom out just a little bit, you can see this is that previous all-time highs level here on Apple. Tried breaking out earlier into the week, got back underneath, but once we reclaimed back above, nice buyer stepped in for a continued push higher. Key levels on Apple for today for continuation is just going to be that previous day highs. Mark this out. Break and retest above our previous day highs, hold for continuation towards the upside here. So longs above 328. Google had a nice bounce, and now you can see the daily chart. A little bit of names are rotating back into software. We talked about Google. This is basically the exact key technical level that we talked about. We have this kind of higher time frame potential, head and shoulders forming here as well. So for Google, buyers are stepping in off this 350. Now we're forming this inverse head and shoulders. You can see the left shoulder. We have our right shoulder above that 350. Strong, aggressive buyers are stepping in. And now we're gravitating back up in towards the top of the range, which is now that 370. So currently we are actually breaking above in the pre-market. So now let's see if this level can hold for a pushback towards the upside. So let's see if we can hold this area for a pushback up in towards 380. Key levels for today is going to be that previous day high. So Google looks solid. This one, strong push up yesterday here as well. So now let's keep an eye out on that previous day high hold for a push up in towards our pre-market highs and potentially above, which is 380 here on the higher time frame. So keep an eye out on Google. for today. Microsoft, another one that ended up having a nice bounce. Similar thing, kind of this head and shoulders, right shoulder here on the higher time frames, higher lows as well. And now finally this push up in towards our 400. This is the exact area that we ended up using as support, turned into resistance, another rejection, and then now we're coming back up once again. What I'd like to see here for upside is the flip back above 400 for this push higher. What I don't want to see is this rejection off this area and continue right back towards the downside. This could very much still be in play, but software has been a little bit stronger as of this week, and these are the names that have been beaten down quite a bit. There's been some rebalancing that's been done within the past 2 weeks. So for Microsoft, this one right off our 380 higher lows. Let's see if we can flip back towards the upside. Key levels that we have marked out, at least for today, is of course going to be that previous day highs. So we'll keep an eye out on that, which it happens to be that 398. So we'll keep an eye on that previous day highs hold coming to market open here on Microsoft. As for Meta, this one, nice hold above our 660s. We talked about this one yesterday. Key technical level is basically that 660. Higher time frame still bullish here as well. That reclaim, nice flip back up in towards our 675 here on the higher time frame. So this is the level that we have marked out. The hold of that 675, continuation back up in towards that previous day highs and above is in play here for Meta. As for Amazon, this is one of the trades that we ended up looking for yesterday here as well. This is one of the trades that I took personally, break outside this range that we talked about. So for Amazon, key levels that we have marked out is that 248, touch here, multiple touches. As you can see, once we broke above, nice continuation towards the upside. So for Amazon, once we're able to break above in the actual market hours, and then we had nice continuation, and you can see now we can expect Amazon to continue higher here as well. So key levels that we have marked out is just going to be that previous day highs. If you look on the daily chart, and now we're trying to flip back above. Let's go put on the EMAs here as well. So for Amazon, finally flipping back above this 248. Now let's see if we can start having continuation back up in towards really this 260. This is kind of the area that we broke down from. Of course, we have that previous all-time highs, but the area that we broke down from is really this right here, 260. So I'd like to see a trade up in towards really this 260, 255 general area coming to Amazon within the next few days. Of course, we do have Netflix earnings tonight, so that's something to keep in mind. That's going to be in the after hours. Right now, we've just been consolidating a lot on Netflix. We'll just be a little bit more patient. This one's right into a key technical level on the higher time frames. I do like Netflix quite a bit here off our 70 key psych for potential bounce play. Something kind of similar. We had a nice bounce play. We ended up building a higher low on the weekly, ultimately kind of rejected and made a higher time frame head and shoulders, you can say. This is our right shoulder here on that 110, and we end up rejecting right off a key technical level. In this case now, this is our previous all-time highs all the way back from July of 2022. This is a really good spot, right? We'll see what happens with earnings, but I wouldn't be surprised if potentially we can see a mini bounce play here off that 70 key psych on Netflix. Right now you can see we're in just a daily downtrend, so anything can happen with earnings, but we're in a good technical spot here on the higher time frames. All right, well, SpaceX back down into that IPO price 135. I talked about it. That has been my target for SpaceX for a while now. Is that 135 pre-IPO price? You can see pretty big drop. Plus the lockup is coming to an end soon as well. Or at least the first lockup. So keep that in mind for SpaceX. We talked about that first initial hype, and it's most likely just going to kind of drop the rest within the next kind of like 6 to 12 months. So now with this being said, we're underneath that 135. That's going to be the key technical level moving forward. All right, with that being said, we just had some orange folder news events that we'll take a look at here. It seems like we have very minimal impact on the market, as we mentioned. The main thing, of course, was core PPI and core CPI yesterday. Today, we just had the core retail sales. All right, so the numbers that were released here forecasted 0% on the core retail sales month over month, forecasted negative 0.2%. You had the retail sales, which came in line with expectations, and of course, the unemployment, which came in a little bit lower than expected, not by a lot. 216, 208 was the actual numbers that were released. So, as you can see, very minimal impact on the markets, which was expected, with it being not as high impact compared to CPI and core PPI. Right now, the markets are at the low of the range. So, coming into today, the game plan is just keeping an eye on the reaction here off our 710. That's going to be key moving forward. As I mentioned, the potential bounce play here off our previous day lows. If we get underneath, we can see a push down in towards that 706. So keep an eye on that previous day lows first, and then after, we'll keep an eye out on the reaction off our 705, which is our higher time frame level of support. We'll see if any buyers want to step in off this area. So let's head on to a couple other names. Let's see. Oracle, let's go over AVGO. Let's go over Oracle here. So AVGO, this one is rejecting off that 400. Right now, we're just more so consolidating here on AVGO, just waiting for that next kind of leg towards the upside, but overall market's pulling back. So this one has been more so just been ranging right in between these areas, right? 400 along with our 360 equilibrium is our 380, so potential bounce play here off our 380 are now above our 400 for continuation towards the upside. So that's what we have on AVGO. As for Oracle, this one's been dropping, and we actually broke underneath a key technical level support here as well. So for Oracle, this one broke underneath our 130. Now we're just going to keep an eye on the 130 moving forward. All right, let's look at this on the hourly time frame. Currently, we are coming back for a potential retest of this area. So for Oracle, keep an eye out on this previous level support. We know this is a higher time frame level support as well. Broke down on Monday. And now coming back up into today, let's see if we can actually reject off this area for this kind of next leg towards the downside, back down and towards that 130 and below. If you want to see a potential flip, it's gonna have to do quite a bit back above our previous day highs, and you'd have to get back above this 136 here as well. Palantir, this one is holding up compared to the overall markets. Nice push up on Tuesday, of course. Yesterday, a little bit more consolidation. What we would like to see is the break above our previous day highs. If we want to see any sort of continued push towards the upside in this case, back above this 135, we can see a flip back up and towards this 138 here on the higher time frames. Another possible scenario is going to be the bounce play offer 132 for a push higher. As for the semis, you can see MU's definitely been a lot weaker as of recent. Key levels that we have marked out is, of course, now going to be this double bottom. If you mark out the EMAs that we have here as well, definitely momentum has slowed down. We talked about the break underneath the 9 and 21. Now you can see we're seeing a little bit more weaker price action, right? Still not able to get back above our 1,000. That was our key level that we want to see a potential flip here. But overall, holding underneath the EMAs, holding now underneath 1,000. We are going to come back down in towards our key level of support, which is this general area. We'll see if any buyers do want to step in, offer 850. This is the exact level MU has to hold. If we flip and break underneath, we can see potential kind of higher time frame weakness here, right? This is kind of that higher low on the daily. You can consider this like a higher low here on the daily, but this is our higher low on the weekly time frame. So this is basically right here. This is our higher low. I consider this on the weekly time frame. So I'd like to see it hold this area for a pushback towards the upside. The daily time frame, technically, as I mentioned, already broke underneath that higher low, but the weekly time frame has to hold. If we don't hold above that 850, we can see room all the way back down and towards 800, which is that daily gap, and potentially below here. So for MU, keep an eye out on that previous day low, or keep an eye on this general area so far, showing a lot more weakness coming into market open here as well. Now we're going to keep an eye out on that previous day lows, right? Previous day lows is going to be key. Keep an eye on a potential pop and fade coming into market open here today. Or now we'd like to see the reclaim back above 880 for a push higher. As for SNDK, similar thesis here, along with the rest of the memory names, key levels that we have is really there are a lot of them are at a key technical level of support. If we drop on MU, the markets are definitely gonna pull back. We talked about that once we had earnings, and even INTC, this one now is back at our original that kind of like bounce area, which is that 100 key psych. We can see another bounce here on Intel. This is kind of right off that 100 and a potential mini mean reversion back towards the upside. But key level now is right back where we bounced from earlier. This was earlier in June. WDC underneath the EMAs, SK Hynix, this one, similar thesis. I'd be a little bit cautious on this one. We had a nice pop, but whenever we have these big pops with the IPOs, generally speaking, they usually kind of die off. But for this one, we end up having a nice couple of trading opportunities. A lot of volatility on this one that you can look to trade. But key levels that we have now is going to be that previous day lows. Touch here, touch here. Keep an eye on a potential flip for a pushback towards the downside, or now be the reclaim back above that 167.50 for a potential push higher. MRVLs continue to drop, so be a little bit more patient on this one. Really, yeah, MRVL, I wanted to see buyers step in, but definitely a little bit weaker. We broke underneath that daily gap here as well. So, right, the thesis on MRVL was to hold at least number one, that daily gap, and now potentially see some buyers, but you can see a lot of rejections. So semis definitely a lot weaker in the overall markets. It's definitely been a little bit trickier as of recent, right? A couple names like the SPY's still holding up, but Q's is dropping down. Some of the semis are showing a lot more weakness. These high beta names are definitely a lot weaker. They are going to present a lot more opportunity, but now it's just going to be a lot slower. Don't expect it to have an immediate like V-shaped recovery, something like this back in May, right? It's not as realistic that it's just going to have this V-shaped recovery and now just head straight back up in towards our all-time highs. Now we broke in structure on the daily. It's going to kind of consolidate and then eventually, right, move back up in towards that all-time highs, right? Similar thing as the rest of the memory and indices as well. So these are the times when the high beta names start dropping, right? Even though the market's still holding up, these are going to present some nice buying opportunities. The main ones are of course going to be like a MU, SNDK, INTC. These are the ones that are going to be moving forward. Of course, if you draw the Fibonacci's as well, all the way from the high to the low, these ones are still very much bullish in terms of a longer term uptrend, right? The best buying opportunity is usually a 50%. The best buying opportunities for long term wise, as I mentioned, is a 50% to 61.8 retracement. So after this initial push higher, right, a lot of people are interested in buying MU like 1,000. But now as it pulls back, right, they're going to get a little bit more scared. In this case, if MU pulls back, right, a buying zone on MU is going to be this daily gap, right, 800, right, and then all the way down into like really this like 700. We'll see if we can get there, but 800 is in play for MU. Right off our kind of 50% retracement here from this swing high to this swing low here on the higher time frame. So keep an eye on MU. Moving forward, we'll keep an eye on a couple other tech names here as well. But at least for today, with of course, sorry, at least for today, the key levels is going to be that previous day lows here on the SPY and Qs. You can see this SPY is still somewhat holding up, so we'll keep an eye out on this 752. And then for the SMH, this one is a little bit weaker as well. This is coming down into a key level support on the higher time frame, so we'll keep an eye out on the reaction here off that 570. So same game plan as the rest of the week. We're just going to wait for that first kind of 10 to 15 minutes, and any name that shows any sort of relative strength, we're going to still look for continuation. The only names that are still holding up are some of the software names and names like Apple. So we'll keep an eye on Apple for continuation today. Google above our previous day highs. Some renewed strength back in the Mag 7. So if you go on to, or sorry, if you, some renewed strength back into the Mag 7 names, right? Apple up 3% yesterday, or 4%. Google up 3%. So we'll keep an eye on that previous day highs hold. Microsoft, similar thesis here as well. We'll keep an eye on the hold above our previous day highs. And then for Amazon, we'll keep an eye on right the previous day highs key technical level. So top watches today for upside: Apple, Google, and Microsoft. Keep an eye on Meta and Amazon here as well. But then the rest of the tech names and some memory names are a lot weaker, like an MU, SNDK, INTC. These are definitely the top watches for continuation towards the downside, especially if the Qs does want to break underneath the key level support here as well. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. We'll keep an eye on tech names, some Mag 7 names for upside, and then semis for downside if the market does want to drop today. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. I'm going to get ready for market open here now. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. Yeah, TSM, we'll take a look at that very briefly. This one had earnings this morning. A little bit, not too much of a reaction, but I'll take a look at the earnings a little bit later. But at least for the initial reaction, we're still fairly bullish. Of course, we did end up rejecting off key levels. We're starting to lose a little bit of momentum here on the higher time frames as well. TSM could potentially come back down into that 380. That's going to be your next good opportunity right off that 380 for continuation. Yeah, that's going to be it for me today, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Peace.